So in my regular class, the traditional classroom class, I tried to convince my students that this revolution was not a movement to create something new, a new country, a new system of government, a new philosophy of government, but an attempt to preserve something old. I make an argument about how we should understand the revolution, and I present evidence to show that this argument is historically valid. If I convince students, or fail to convince, they will still walk away knowing that A, the story they were told all their lives about the revolution is an interpretation, and there are other interpretations. And B, they'll know why they support one interpretation or the other. This debate about the revolution and status quo is a very old debate. It was launched already in 1776 when Tom Paine argued that over the course of the colonial era, English colonists had undergone a transformation, a long and persistent process of Americanization. According to Paine, they gradually became less British and more American in their culture and ideals and values. So, as the famous historian Gordon Wood famously said, the Revolution of 1776 simply gave political form, after the fact, to the real revolution that had taken place in the hearts and minds of Americans over the previous century and a half. The result of this gradual Americanization was a new nation state, a new form of government, and a new philosophy of government articulated in the 1787 Constitution. Other historians have disagreed, seeing the colonies as a branch of a British civilization rather than the saplings of a new civilization. The Americans were British, they remained British, and they rebelled because they were British, not because they had become something different. To these historians, including me, Anglicization was stronger than Americanization, and the revolution was a story of continuity, not change. The revolutionists liked the status quo of salutary neglect. They complained and resisted when Parliament threatened salutary neglect. They went to war to safeguard salutary neglect, and they created a form of government in the Articles of Confederation that preserved salutary neglect, a loose confederation of self-governing states under a weak central government. So this division is, roughly speaking, a division between historians who see in the colonial era evidence of increasing Americanization among settlers, and historians who are skeptical about Americanization. One group sees the Atlantic as a cultural barrier that separated and allowed differences to form between this British population and that British population. The other group sees the Atlantic as a bridge that connected them and kept them similar. We all learned the Americanization storyline all of our lives, from our K through 12 textbooks and classes, from college, the History Channel, documentaries, and from movies and pop culture all of our lives. What I try to do is show that there's another view of colonial and revolutionary America, that there's stronger evidence for the persistence of old English habits and sensibilities in America. I trace forces of Anglicization in America, set the revolution in the context of English culture, and present it as a product of changes that took place in England, not America. My point is that the revolutionists understood the revolution as a backward-looking constitutional movement to resist changes coming from England and to restore old English liberties by restoring the old English system of salutary neglect. They did not see it as a war of national liberation or a tax revolt or a movement to try out a new system of government. They saw it as a conservative revolution, a revolution to conserve the status quo. And therefore, we should see it as such as well.